Указами президента Российской Федерации за мужество и героизм, проявленные при исполнении воинского долга, звание Героя Российской Федерации присвоено.
That is Vladimir Putin giving a clear cold shoulder, turning his back completely on Sergei Shoigu, who is the head of the Ministry of Defense in Russia. These types of events are highly choreographed. They're all about showing strength, and clearly Putin made the effort to show he's turning his back on Shoigu here. Not entirely sure what that means from a policy standpoint, but it is not a good look for Shoigu. And this comes after Putin held meetings with military and security bloc leaders over the weekend. Putin announced the removal of Valery Gerasimov from leading the, quote, special military operation and all of its related processes. Officially, there's no orders that came down indicating this, but the reality is Gerasimov has been suspended as of Sunday, June 11th, and this comes from the record within the discussion. Putin explained his decision by expressing the discontent with Gerasimov's lack of belief in victory in Ukraine and that Gerasimov has been showing a decadent attitude. Putin was also disappointed with the results of the winter/spring offensive, the one where it actually took a private military company, Wagner Group, to take Bakhmut, and the Russian forces were largely seen as inept. So formally, Gerasimov still holds the titles of commander of the Joint Group of Forces and the chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Russia, but he won't be in charge of anything. He may just be a handshake, smiling on camera type of general. Putin has come out and said that all of the private military companies, including Wagner, need to fall under control of the Ministry of Defense. When they brought up the various defense counselors and the leaders from the military and security bloc brought up the fact that Yevgeny Prigozhin is resisting, Putin indicated, quote, "It was time to quit with him. He was not needed." I'm not sure what that means, but that sounds kind of ominous when it comes from Putin. So Putin's rationale for dismissing Gerasimov could also potentially apply to really the entire general staff, as many of them are now coming on record, mostly unofficially, as not really believing there is a chance for the victory in Ukraine as Putin envisions it, the stated goals Putin had in the initial stages of the war last year. Meanwhile, more things stack up for the generals within the Russian military, as a Russian channel has said that the chief of staff of the Russian 35th Combined Arms Army, Major General Sergei Goryshev, was killed in a missile strike. Now, a major general is a one-star general in the Russian military, so it's a pretty significantly high-ranking official to die in battle, and we've seen many of these types of deaths take place in the general officer corps. Now back to Prigozhin, and the drama here is escalating like a Game of Thrones season. It's possible that Putin is using the conflict between Shoigu and Prigozhin, like many other times he's pitted two people against each other, two opposing ends to a situation against each other to divert society's attention, and then eventually King Putin, the savior, comes in and settles the situation. Putin probably needed someone who could criticize the generals with ease, could criticize the Ministry of Defense, because Putin is clearly upset with his defense officials and can't come out in public and say that because it would undermine the whole facade of the Russian military as the strongest in the world, etc., etc. But it seems like this situation is spinning out of control, and Putin seems to be somewhat uncertain of what to do between Gerasimov, Shoigu, Prigozhin, and Surovikin, who all four have played a part in this kind of palace intrigue in the Kremlin with regard to supplies and threats, etc., somewhat ultimatums. Well, Gerasimov voiced an ultimatum saying that there needed to be an answer on what to do with Prigozhin by July 1st. No word on whether that's been something officially that Putin has ordered to deal with Prigozhin. Clearly, he's violating many rules and laws within Russia by talking about how poorly the Russian military is doing by making threats. And the latest is when Prigozhin objectively crossed a red line when he simply said, if Shoigu tries to take over Wagner PMC, Shoigu will die. This is the head of the Ministry of Defense. That is insane. That is like threatening a cabinet secretary on the president's staff, the president of the United States staff. So this statement was made in response to the Russian Ministry of Defense deciding to make all volunteer units, quote, and the private military companies fall under the Russian armed forces. For the record, the Chechens did sign that contract. And so we are looking at a situation where we have potentially definitely three figureheads here, with Putin at the top of the pyramid, with Shoigu and Prigozhin, all this infighting. Gerasimov has been seen as pretty much inept and sidelined. He's more of a book theory general, but couldn't put any of his theories in practice. And then you have Surovikin, who was largely one of the more deadly generals when it came to operations in the Middle East for Russia. He was sidelined too, but he has been used as a scapegoat for Prigozhin, and so he's been drugged back into this situation. So not entirely sure where this is going to lead. All I can tell you is when generals are dying, generals are being fired, and you have private military companies threatening the head of your Ministry of Defense, your war is going really, really badly. And that's really what sums up this whole mess right now.